I'm going to go through some general ideas on mounting the TV to the mechanism. Now, TVs all vary in how they mount and such, but we're going to give you some different pointers and some different ways to do this that should make this doable. The newer TVs, and especially from the big manufacturers, all use what's called a VESA pattern, which means where the connections are on the back of the television for mounting it to a wall or mounting it to this mechanism. In this VESA pattern is 200 by 200. That's 200 millimeters by 200 millimeters, and that's what this one is. And essentially they're about 8 inches apart from each other. And as long as the back of your TV has that VESA pattern where they're about 8 inches apart or 200 millimeters, then it might mount directly to the mechanism as is, and I'm going to go through that very first. And if it doesn't, then there's some other things that we're going to go through, so we'll be able to get it mounted to this mechanism. The quickest and easiest way to mount it to the mechanism is if it can mount directly to these holes that are on the lift. These are that same VESA pattern, but TVs all vary as far as how high or low these mount. So what I'm going to do is hold this TV up and see where it mounts, where I could get to some of those holes, and come down just a little bit right there. Okay, now if you can line up the TV on both of the holes, the upper holes and the lower holes, and the TV is no more than 1/2 inch above the mechanism, you can mount it directly to this lift of the mechanism. This one we can't because the lower hole is below this section. So we're not going to be able to do that. So we're going to now show you how to mount it with a set of holes that's kind of lower like this TV has. Okay, now I'm going to show the lift brackets and the TV mounts and all of that as far as getting this so it'll mount to the lift. First off, I wanted to point out that there's a couple of lift brackets. This lift bracket is ultimately going to be installed into this lifting column. Now the thing to know is in order to make any 50-inch TV work, you are only going to use the 3rd hole down, the 4th hole down, or the 5th hole down. So just those 3 holes are the only options, and this will be the top bar. We'll put one in the bottom too as soon as we get it all situated, but we want to get it gauged by this. So the 3rd hole, 4th hole, or 5th hole, and I'm going to make reference to that here in just a minute as I'm putting the bracket on the back of the TV. Okay, now after having discussed mounting the lift bracket to the mechanism itself, and where that's mounted in that 3rd, 4th, or 5th hole is going to interact with how this TV mounting bracket will mount to the back of the TV. And you'll notice that there's a series of holes and slots, and you can use any spot because even with a washer you can use one of the bigger areas to mount these brackets to the back of the television. The goal is to make the TV as high on the mechanism as possible and still allow the lid to close. And the TVs are really, we're really maximizing the space that we have in that footboard to make this work. So I'm just going to take this TV bracket and I'm going to find a couple of holes that I know I can mount into. And if you can find a series of holes that will allow you to be either the bracket is flush with the top of the TV up to 1.5 inches down, then in that scenario, flush to 1.5 inches down, you're going to ultimately put the bracket on the 3rd hole, and we're going to do that here in a minute. If you can't get it flush to 1.5 inches down, meaning the holes on the TV are further down than that, then the next opportunity would be this bracket from the top of the TV would be 1 1/2 inches down to 3.5 inches down, so 1.5 to 3.5, and then we're going to use the 4th hole on that bracket. And now if you still can't get it into that parameter, then the next would be from the top of the TV to the top of this lift bracket would be 3.5 inches to 5.5 inches. That would put the bracket clear at the bottom of the TV. But that would then mean you're going to use the 5th hole up there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bracket. I'm going to line it up on the very bottom hole, and I'm going to measure, and that puts me at 2 3/4, which means that I'm in that second area, which was 1.5 to 3.5, and so I'm going to use the 4th hole up there. So that would be the first opportunity. Okay, back to the mounting hardware that came in the bag in the mechanism box. There's a series of lengths and also diameters. This particular TV is going to take the smaller diameter, and I want this mounting bracket to be mounted as close to the surface of the back on this TV as possible. And so what I've found is, in this particular situation, the smaller machine screw works just great. So I'm just going to go ahead and thread that down. It's going to tighten down. They also give you some spacers and some washers, and we're going to use a washer here in a minute. If you need to use a spacer, it would be better to use that spacer more as a washer than as a spacer on the front of this bracket. We don't want the TV to be too far from the front of this mounting bracket, or else it'll be too close to the face of to the inside front of the footboard. All right, so now my second hole up here that I'm going to put in, it's one of these slotted holes, and it's actually one of the larger areas of those slotted holes. So I'm going to just use a washer, and I'll just go ahead and mount that in. Now I'll mount the second one in exactly the same positions. And remember, I've got this little lever here toward the outside on this one and toward the outside on this other one. So, and I'm just going to use the same set of screws. I don't need a washer really on this bottom one. The hole is just slightly larger than this machine screw. But on that top one, I'm going to use one of these washers because it's into one of those larger slots. If it's in one of those larger slots too, I just want to make sure this is pretty even, parallel to each other. All right, so I'm going to just tighten these down. And now those TV brackets are mounted to the back of this 50-inch TV. Okay, I've grabbed this lift bracket that I'm going to mount into the appropriate hole based on that measurement that we had talked about. This lift bracket comes with a couple of machine screws with a hex head pre-installed. I've just backed both those out. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and put this one into the hole that's going to be appropriate for the measurement on that TV mounting bracket to the top of the TV. All right, I've got that mounted, and now I'm going to mount the TV on there. Okay, now we're going to test the TV in those positions. I've got a helper here. I'm just going to kind of hold that over there, and he's just going to latch that. The top of this bar, the flat part of this bar, is going to just slip right down into that groove. It's just going to hang on that. Now there will be two of them in the end, but right now we're just testing. So we'll just want to make sure that the TV goes down and that all the way, and that the lid closes. Okay, so the TV clears and the lid fully closes. Okay, now we're going to raise the TV and go ahead and put on the second lift bracket on the mechanism. Okay, now I'm adding the second lift bracket, and it's 4 holes down from this, or the 4th hole down. So 1, 2, 3, 4th hole, and that's where I'm going to put the second lift bracket, which will then line up with the TV bracket. So I'm just going to put those on and tighten that up. Then I'm going to get my assistant, and we're going to set them onto these brackets. Okay, now with the TV mounted, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate these little arms up. They kind of clamp onto that bar. And then the last thing to do will just be to plug the TV into the power strip inside the footboard, and then turn the TV on, and we're done. We hope that this video has helped in the setup and installation of the TV lift bed. And if you have any questions, just give us a call at the number at the bottom of this screen.